Hey guys, welcome to a brand new episode of Harry Potter Hogwarts Mystery. Today we are talking about Tom Riddle in the R theories. What evidence is there for him being R and against? And eventually we're going to look at what situation, using some help from your guys' comments in the last video, which some good suggestions about what circumstances would have to be for him to be R. So before we get into the here and now, let's look at a bit of a backstory on Tom Riddle to understand, does he meet the criteria of what R would need to be? So Tom Riddle, as we all know, became Lord Voldemort. Born 1926, December the 31st, he was born into a wonderful world of happiness, and oh no wait, his mother died shortly after. That's alright, he still had his dad, who was in love with Tom Riddle's mother, until the love potion wore off, leading to his father eventually abandoning him to Wolves Orphanage. So you can understand a little bit why this guy became quite an angry person. So being one of the R criteria is going to be that you're going to have to be somebody who enters the Cursed Vaults at some point, somebody who is skilled in wizardry. Let's look into the backstory on that. We know that R had access to the vaults before us, and somebody who had very early access to Hogwarts was Tom Riddle. In 1938, Lord Voldemort, Tom Riddle, was enrolled in Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry and was sorted into House of Slytherin. We know that Tom Riddle became Lord Voldemort, one of the most powerful wizards ever seen, and he started in Hogwarts very much along those same lines, created his first Horcrux at the age of 16, so he clearly had a passion for understanding dark magic, reading the books that he would have had to be able to do that. And when thinking about Cursed Vaults and whether he had the skills to be able to do that, remember that he was one of the only people to access the Chamber of Secrets and even go further to his control the basilisk there via Parseltongue. Not an easy feat, being that you only have to look a basilisk in the eyes and you're gone. So this is clear evidence that he was skilled enough and explorative enough to actually potentially have sought the Cursed Vaults and the powers that hid behind it. One thing our experience with the Cursed Vaults currently brings us is a sense that the curses are really dark. You know, the ice that spread throughout Hogwarts could have become a hell of a lot worse and left a lot of people in hospital. And it was only when we put a stop to it that the cursed ice stopped spreading. The second curse unleashed boggarts upon Hogwarts School, unleashing everybody's worst fears against them. So whoever was involved with the Cursed Vaults or tampered with them, they were somebody who didn't care about the consequences. These curses we're talking about match his MO in that, you know, whilst at Hogwarts, he unleashed a basilisk upon students. In the process, ended up killing Moaning Myrtle, as we now come to know. So he's someone who is willing to cause harm, even at that age, to other students. On top of that, he's somebody who's quite manipulative and clever. He convinced the headmaster at that time, which was Dippet, to believe that Hagrid and Aragog were responsible for the things that were going on at Hogwarts. In the process, this ended up with Hagrid being expelled from the school. After finishing Hogwarts, he surprised everybody by going to work at Borgin and Burke's as a purchasing agent at the Dark Artifact shop. As we know, he used this experience to actually seek one of the Horcruxes that he later created. So Tom Riddle definitely had the access and time to potentially seek the Cursed Vaults, find them and tamper with them, change them however he may have wished, and maybe even he reached the fourth vault and discovered the powers at the end. We'll never know. Maybe there was nothing at the end and he just reset them. We don't know yet. One of the problems with Tom Riddle being R is the fact that Jacob would have had to be way, way older than us for him to have been around at Hogwarts at the same time, which we know that R was definitely some way involved at Hogwarts as he was avoiding Filch, Snape and R at a point when he moved his research. It may have been that Tom Riddle wasn't directly involved in being at the school to seek his research, but it could have been that he was involved in some other way via, you know, possession or polyjuice potion or going through a student. He had many Death Eaters and they will have probably had children, and some of them will have definitely been at Hogwarts at the time. So it could have been that when he meant he was avoiding R, he was avoiding somebody who was helping R. Being that this was probably around the time the war was going on, he may have had other concerns, but it could have been that he had the motive of seeking something in the Cursed Vaults to make him more powerful, or potentially even to use as a Horcrux. So then let's look at the facts for the here and now. One of the problems with this theory for me is that I believe R is going to be somebody who is present in the here and now, somebody that we might meet in future years. And Tom Riddle, now Lord Voldemort at this point, wouldn't be capable of that. It would have been very difficult. At this point, 1984 was when we began Hogwarts. He has escaped. Apparently he's in Albania and he's in spirit form. By his own proclamation in later years, Lord Voldemort told us that he was no stronger than the meanest of ghosts. So he was worse than nearly Headless Nick. He could possess animals. So he could possess snakes, and that was as far as it went. When he did possess a snake, it would completely reduce the lifespan of it, and slowly that form would disintegrate. At this point in time, there is no evidence of him possessing a human being. It was only at the point when Harry Potter was around at Hogwarts that he was able to possess Professor Quirrell, and even that, not even in the full form. So it seems very unlikely that he's here in the here and now tampering with the vaults, unless it's via some other means, via one of his Death Eaters, trying to seek something to help him. It could well be. So therefore, Lord Voldemort would find it very, very difficult to actually tamper with the vaults. But this doesn't necessarily mean he's R. It may be somebody else, like Marula, who's tampering with the vaults at the first point, that is causing the curse to become reactivated. So at this point, I think he fits the bill in terms of he's strong enough. He can easily transfigure a quill into a note. He could probably have taken down some of the cursed vaults if he was around at the time, facing some of them. But the question is he around now to be able to maintain that and be the R that's potentially going to be involved in the storyline? So for me at the moment, definitely you've got all the experience, potential, motive to have been R. It falls a little bit flatter when it comes into the here and now, and there's that big kind of clue off from Jacob that Argus Filch, Snape, and R he was trying to avoid. That kind of poses a question though, if Voldemort was R, that Jacob was avoiding him, which would probably give a sign that he is not on the dark side of things and not working for the Lord Voldemort. But we are getting mixed messages at this point. Some people saying he's a very pleasant boy, some people saying that he was going mad. So who knows? So next, let's look at some of the comments from you guys about Tom Riddle potentially being R. So Sylveon Evolutions straight up said Tom Riddle. And Nincloud was quick to dispute one little important fact, I think. He doesn't think people like Marula and Rita would know Voldemort's birth name at this point. So Marula, very young. She does have come from a family of Death Eaters though, and could have found this. But, you know, Harry Potter, when he came, he didn't know Voldemort's birth name, and very few people did. For me, Rita would be more likely to know Voldemort's name, is that he's a business to know people's business. And she may have known at this point. Once it says that Voldemort was in Hogwarts and his real name is not a secret, but actually it kind of is. After Riddle graduated Hogwarts, Nincloud says he surprised everyone by, rather than pursuing a career at Ministry, settling in a job as an assistant at Borgin and Burke's. When he stole the locket and the goblet from Hepzibah Smith, he quit and left Great Britain for years to come. When he returned, the number of physical transformations he had gone through in the course of his travels and immersion into the dark arts left him in the place where few recognised him. By the time that Voldemort began his rise to power, almost no one knew that charismatic young Mr. Riddle and this dark wizard of such immense power, revelling in death, destruction, cruelty, was actually the same guy. The only ones he thinks knows about this at this point was Dumbledore, Slughorn, who I doesn't think he'll appear, but who knows, the oldest Death Eaters who went to school with, some of them which probably either in Azkaban at this point or avoided imprisonment and returned to their daily lives, or McGonagall, who Pottermore said that whilst he did not teach Voldemort, she shared Dumbledore's fears and suspicions about his survival and imminent return. Dumbledore might have told her Voldemort's true name. You would think he'd probably say that. Jules Fokker Gossett just says straight up Riddle, as does Alexandra Eli. Oh, and a really, really good point by James Ross Naylor. This last bit, the fact that there are rumours he joined up with Voldemort indicates he was expelled at the time when Voldemort was still active. So 1981 at the latest, 3 years before the story began. Umami also at first wanted it to be Tom Riddle, and I think we all did because it's that R, isn't it? But then that would completely mess up the HP canon potentially, so he's not sure who he'd like to be, maybe Rowan or Marula. Harshvardhan Sharma says, according to one theory, the R could be the Dark Lord himself. The initial of his surname is Riddle, and plus the Black Quill is found in the Slytherin's common room, and we all know that he who cannot be typed, must not be typed, was a Slytherin, but other theories could also be correct. But Tinney gives a bit of like evidence against that, is that he joined Ravenclaw house and the Black Quill was actually in Gryffindor's common room, so it changes depending on which house you're in. Alicia Beep Boop Beep Beep Pang again says also it could be Tom Riddle himself as his name starts with R. Elena Karen is very firm in her belief that it's Tom Riddle. That is my theory, and nobody can move me from it. So no one. Don't be trying. Then Arizona Wild comes up with his kind of theory for what circumstances would have to be in place for Tom Riddle to be R. So doing my job for me. My theory is that R stands for Tom Riddle. Very few people could have access to all 4 common rooms. The room you break in changes depending on your house you choose. He's done his research. And have the magical ability to plant said clues, definitely. Then I thought, who do I know who has the first or last name that starts with R? The answer to that is obviously Tom Riddle. So here's my theory. Tom Riddle found the cursed vaults during his time at Hogwarts and left those clues behind for us to find. This makes sense because Riddle was one of the few students who explored, accessed the majority of Hogwarts. He found the Chamber of Secrets and had Horcruxes there, remember? Moreover, after he was vanquished by Harry Potter, he was weakened and no longer had a physical form. I believe that the Cursed Vaults was potentially another ploy by Voldemort to get his power back. I believe that there is something in the Cursed Vaults that could potentially bring Voldemort back to power. The problem for Voldemort was that he needed to get back to Hogwarts, needed someone to get to the vaults for him. That's where the brother comes in. Our brother was the only student at Hogwarts, after Riddle of course, to reach the Cursed Vaults. Potentially, obviously, we've got the new news. This was before we knew about Patricia Ratepick. She has intimate experience with, I think it said the Curse Vaults. Or was it a Curse Vaults? Anyway, she has intimate experience, so it may have been that she actually was involved in the Curse Vaults too at some point. So Voldemort thus then possessed or used our brother to try and find these vaults. Similar to Quirrell in the Sorcerer's Stone, this could explain our brother going mad and his association with Death Eaters. What Voldemort wasn't counting on, however, was our brother getting expelled. That's where we come in. I believe that Voldemort, like how he did in Harry into the Order of Phoenix, is planting visions in our head in hopes of using us to reach the Cursed Vaults, because he needs to unlock it for some reason or another that we haven't worked out yet and don't know. So I think that is a really, really good theory for potentially. The only things where I think that falls flat for me is that I don't think Jacob is bad because he was trying to avoid R, and therefore why would he hide his research from R, and R wouldn't have any access at that point. He could have possessed, and maybe, I suppose he could have, in like, maybe you know when you have a split personality, when you see that in films where you try and hide something from them and then they come back into consciousness and they aren't aware of your memories and therefore can't do it. So it may have worked like that. So that's where those circumstances may still work. But I think the theory could potentially work out. You know, it could just be that it's somebody else other than Jacob that he's using to help access the Cursed Vaults. I think it'd be really good to get more clues from the third vault to see if there are only things left by R. Because it may have been that Jacob only accessed the first vault. So one of the big problems for me in a lot of the theories is that we have these cursed vaults that are being tampered with and a curse is being triggered. We also know that somebody's been involved in that. We know that R's definitely got to the point where they're finally at the end of the cursed vault. And we know that Jacob potentially has as well because of his wand and notebook. But why did the curse then reset? We've broken the curse. So is somebody accessing the vault and then resetting a curse or setting their own curse? Who knows what they're doing? And I don't see the motive for Jacob to do it. So that would give more kind of evidence that R is somebody who would have to actively be around Hogwarts now. For me, that really points to evidence that whoever R is, they had intimate experience with Hogwarts whilst Jacob was around, and also intimate experience whilst we're there as well. And I think if we find somebody who fits those two criteria, everything will click into place. So let's end with some closing comments from Dill Thomas. Thoughts on Tom Riddle? Pros, badass villain who would do anything for power, can't deny that. And plus, Voldemort could believe the Curse Vaults could have some way of bringing him back or making him stronger. And one thing that, also we should consider is that whilst we know that he doesn't get anything from the Curse Vaults to bring him to power, it doesn't necessarily mean he isn't, because, it could be that we're the one who stops him. Cons though, his whereabouts between 1981 and 1993 is kind of unknown, but it's assumed he's in some sort of spirit form. And so we know that's obviously confirmed by his self-proclamation that he was a spirit form. And when Jacob was at school, presumably the 70s, Voldemort was in the height of his power, not deep exploring Hogwarts and trying to stop Jacob finding the vaults. Overall, he believes Voldemort has the motive for the Cursed Vaults, definitely, but not a clear opportunity given the canon lore we already know. Overall, I think Tom Riddle is definitely one of the stronger candidates that we've talked about so far. He definitely has motive, he definitely has the skills, he has the past experience of potentially have coming into contact with the Cursed Vaults before Jacob, before us. It just falls a little bit flat or uncertain or unlikely in the here and now and how he would be involved. He does have means via other people, but I think that R is referring to somebody active that was around at the time of Jacob, and that's where it falls flat for me. I think Voldemort just isn't powerful enough at this point, and he's in hiding. He wouldn't possess any humans. He's aware that there could be still auras looking for him, and that's why I think he would probably keep that lying low. Seeking some way back to power though is good motivation for him to come out of hiding and potentially do that at Hogwarts School. But it seems very unlikely that he would attempt that now he's outside of Hogwarts School. He would have had his best chance of doing that while he was in school, and why not have done that then when he had the opportunity, rather than now when he is a spirit form. Desperate times? Maybe. I think the more likely thing is that he's using someone to be able to do that. For me, I'm not putting out the idea that Tom Riddle isn't involved, Lord Voldemort isn't involved. For me, I think that Voldemort could be involved. Death Eaters around, students of Death Eaters could be around, and that what might be more likely is that they might be seeking help for Voldemort on his behalf. So if I was going to give it a kind of rating as likely, I'd put it at probably a 5 out of 10, definitely the best that we've seen so far. So let me know what you guys think overall. How much do you think it is likely that Tom Riddle, have you seen any other flaws in the argument for or against that I haven't picked up? Definitely pop your comments in the comment section below. I always enjoy reading them. So the next one we will be doing is on Rita Skeeter, somebody who actually was around at the time of Jacob Hunter, is around at the time of us, has probably got access to Hogwarts. We've already seen she can come here and has good influence in swaying her little competition. So quite a good competitor for the R theories. Let me know what you think. Comments in the section below. Thank you to everybody who contributed to this video via your comments. It really helps me to create the content and think about different theories. And I think what it does, it takes all the different little bits of evidence from the different classes. See, I'm only in Gryffindor, so I only know that Slytherin is the house that the Black Quill is found in. Whereas you guys in Ravenclaw know that it's in Gryffindor's common room. So definitely put your thoughts on Rita Skeeter down in the comment section below. Okay, well that's all for this one. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. If you have, please hit the like button and hit subscribe if you want to keep up to date with future information. That's all for me. See you soon.